Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, looked out the window, and thought to yourself, how did the years fly by so quickly? One minute you're raising kids, juggling a job and chasing dreams, and the next you're getting birthday cards with the numbers you never imagined you'd reach. But here's the thing. Age doesn't mean slowing down. Not really. I'm 92 and I still get behind the wheel, feel the wind on my face, and drive myself to the grocery store, to church, even to the beach now and then. People always ask me how I do it, and to be honest, it's not magic. It's not good genes either. It's 5 little habits, simple things I've done for over 30 years that have kept me going, strong and steady. Now, before you assume, this is just another list of eat kale and take your vitamins. Let me stop you right there. These habits aren't about chasing youth. They're about honoring your body, your mind, and your spirit, no matter what the calendar says. This isn't about looking younger. It's about living better. Because let's face it, being alive is one thing, but feeling alive, that's what really matters. So if you're someone who's wondering how to stay independent longer, how to feel steady on your feet, sharp in your mind, and full in your heart, then you're in the right place. Let me tell you about the first habit that's made all the difference for me. Every morning, and I mean every morning, rain or shine, I move. That's right. I don't mean running marathons or hitting the gym. At my age, jumping jacks would probably send the neighbors into a panic. But movement, gentle, consistent movement, that's been my lifeline. I've done the same stretching routine for 30 years. I roll my shoulders, stretch my legs, and take 10 slow, deep breaths while reaching for the sky. Some days I walk up and down the block. Other days, it's just dancing slowly to an old tune in the kitchen. I'm not trying to break records. I'm just reminding my body that it still works, still bends, still flows. And the body listens, you know? It really does. There was a time, it must have been around 68 or so, when I started waking up stiff. My knees creaked like the floorboards, and I thought, well, this must be it. But I wasn't ready to give in to that idea. So I began to stretch a little before bed, then again in the morning, and I noticed something wild. I stopped creaking so much. I felt lighter, more fluid. Now here I am, 3 decades later, still driving myself to get groceries, and even taking the long way home, just for the view. It's not about being fast, it's about staying mobile. And you'd be surprised how good your balance and coordination stay when you move just a little bit every day. Of course, moving your body is one thing, but let me tell you the second habit that's kept me just as sharp. I feed my brain with new thoughts every single day. Doesn't matter if it's a crossword puzzle, a conversation with a stranger, or reading a book I wouldn't normally pick up. The trick is not to let your mind fall asleep just because your body's slowing down. I once heard someone say, the brain is like a muscle. Use it or lose it. And after all these years, I believe that more than ever. Now, I'm no genius. Never went to college. I worked in a post office for 40 years and raised 5 kids in a little house with a tiny kitchen. But every day, I made time to learn something. I'd pick up a new word, look at a map, learn a fact I didn't know. One day it was how bees talk to each other by dancing. Another day it was the history of the accordion. Doesn't matter what. It is, as long as your brain stays curious, it stays young. That curiosity kept me from feeling stuck. It made me feel like I was still growing, even at 70, even at 80, and yes, even now at 92. People always say, but it's so hard to remember things when you're older. And sure, sometimes I forget where I put the keys or what day the garbage goes out. But that's not the kind of memory that matters most. What matters is whether you still find joy in learning, whether you can still hold a thought long enough to smile at it. I believe staying mentally active is like lighting a candle every day. You don't do it to fight the dark. You do it to enjoy the light. And here's something else I've learned. When your body and mind are moving, your heart tends to follow. Not the physical heart, Makkah, though mine's still ticking strong, thank God. I mean the emotional heart, the part of you that feels connected, alive, and hopeful. That's a habit too. a choice, really. And it takes some practice. You see, I made a decision a long time ago to forgive easily. It sounds simple, but it's not. Holding on to grudges, to hurt, to resentment, that's a heavy load to carry through life. And believe me, I had plenty of chances to carry it. I lost my wife when we were just in our 50s. That grief nearly swallowed me whole. Then I had a falling out with my brother, and we didn't talk for 10 years. 10 years. That's a long time to let your heart stay closed. But I realized something one night, sitting alone at the kitchen table. Bitterness doesn't protect you. It just keeps joy out. So I picked up the phone. I made peace, not because everything was okay, but because I needed to be free. And the strange thing? After that, I started sleeping better. My blood pressure went down. I even started laughing more, real belly-shaking laughter. That kind of joy, the kind that comes from peace, I think it's better than any medicine. If I had one secret weapon for living into my 90s with health and clarity, it would be learning how to let go. Not of people necessarily, but of pain. You can't drive forward if you're staring at the rearview mirror too long, so every morning I stretch, I move, I breathe deep. Then I sit with my coffee and do something to wake up my mind. A puzzle, a poem, a page from the newspaper. I keep my heart light by choosing kindness, by making peace quickly, and by remembering that we're all just trying our best. And when I drive myself to the market or the pharmacy, I do it with the quiet confidence that I've done right by my body, my brain, and my soul. Now, I haven't even shared all 5 habits yet, but just think about these so far. Simple movements, a curious mind, a forgiving heart. These aren't fancy, expensive tricks. You don't need a gym membership or a fancy meal plan to start. You just need to want more from your life than just getting through the day. You need to believe that your best years aren't behind you. They're still here, waiting to be lived with intention, joy, and just a little stretch in the morning. So, where were we? Right? Waking up the body, keeping the mind curious, and letting go of the things that weigh down the heart. These have been pillars in my life, sure, but there's another habit that's just as important, and I'll be honest, this one doesn't get talked about enough, especially as we age. But I'll tell you right now, if you don't nourish your friendships, if you don't stay connected to people who make you smile, laugh, or even just listen, it's like trying to drive a car on an empty tank. I call this habit keeping my circle alive. And no, I don't mean throwing parties or joining 10 clubs. I'm talking about something simpler and more powerful, staying in touch, reaching out, having real conversations, the kind that don't rush. I've had the same best friend since 1954. His name's Charlie. We've gone through everything. Marriages, divorces, kids, retirements, surgeries, the works. But every week, without fail, we call each other. Even if it's just to complain about the weather or laugh about something we saw on TV. That connection, that heartbeat between us, it's kept me grounded. There's a loneliness that creeps in with age, and let me tell you, it's sneaky. One day you're busy with life, the next, everyone seems to be too far away. The kids have their lives, the neighbors move, people pass on. But if you let that silence grow roots, it starts to pull you down. So I made a rule. I talk to at least one person every day, a neighbor, a friend, even the cashier at the store. I ask questions, I listen, I let people feel seen, and I let myself feel seen too. We need that. No matter how old we are, we still need to feel like we matter. And when you give people your time, your attention, your laughter, you'd be amazed how much they give back. I remember when I turned 80, my grandson gave me a little tablet and taught me how to use email. I laughed at first. What does a man my age need email for? But then I started sending messages to old friends, even looked up a few army buddies, and before long I was getting replies, stories, photos. I felt like a part of the world again, that sense of belonging. That doesn't just keep you happy. It keeps you alive. Now let's talk about the 5th habit, maybe the most surprising of all. It has nothing to do with movement or thinking or even talking. It's about stillness. Every single day, I give myself 10 minutes of quiet. No TV, no radio, no phone, just me, sitting, breathing, listening to the birds or the hum of the refrigerator. Some people call it meditation. I just call it my reset button. And I believe it's one of the reasons my heart is steady, my nerves are calm, and my spirit stays young. I started doing this after my wife passed away. The house felt too loud with her gone, even in silence. Grief can do that. So I started sitting by her chair every morning, just breathing. At first, I cried. Then I prayed. Then I started just being. And after a few weeks, something shifted. I started noticing little things. The way the morning light hit the window, the sound of my neighbor's dog barking 2 houses down. I began to feel rooted again, like I belonged to the world, even without her beside me. That's what stillness does. It brings you back to center. Now, most people don't think of stillness as a habit, but I do. Because life pulls us in every direction, even in old age. There's always a doctor to call, a bill to pay, a worry to carry. But those 10 minutes of silence, they remind me that I'm more than my schedule. I'm a soul just like you, and souls need space to breathe. They need quiet, like the earth needs rain. People often ask me if I'm afraid of getting older, of what's next. But the truth is, I don't worry much about that. I've lived a good long life. I've loved deeply. I've laughed until my sides hurt. I've cried until my pillow was soaked. But most importantly, I've paid attention. I've been present. And these 5 habits, they've made that possible. Moving every day, feeding my mind with curiosity, letting go of heavy grudges, staying connected to people, and giving myself time to just be. That's the recipe. Not for youth, but for vitality. And let me say this, if you're in your 60s, 70s, even 80s or 90s, it is not too late to start. Not even close. I didn't begin these habits all at once. They came to me over time, like gifts, and I opened them slowly, one by one. You can do the same. Maybe you start with stretching for 5 minutes while the coffee brews. Maybe you call an old friend just to say hello. Maybe tonight you sit in silence and listen to your own breathing for a little while. That's all it takes. One small step, then another. I didn't stay healthy into my 90s because I had better doctors or more money. I stayed healthy because I showed up for myself every day, even when I didn't feel like it, even when my back hurt or the world felt too loud. I kept choosing life, kept choosing presence, and in return, life kept showing up for me, in little joys, small moments, and big blessings. So if you've made it this far in the video, I want to invite you to do something bold. Pick one of these 5 habits, just one, and try it for the next 7 days. Maybe you'll feel silly at first. That's okay. Keep going. Because 7 days becomes a month. A month becomes a season. And before you know it, you'll be standing a little taller, thinking a little clearer, smiling a little more often. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming more of who you already are, strong, wise, and full of life. There is something no one tells you about getting older, that time doesn't slow down for you just because your body does. If anything, it speeds up. The days blur together if you're not careful. That's why I learned something else, something I didn't even know was a habit until I looked back at my life and saw how much it had shaped me. I call it finding small wonders. And this, my friend, is where life starts to feel beautiful again. Let me explain. When I was a younger man, running after a career, raising kids, fixing the house, I missed a lot of things. The color of the sunrise, the sound of my daughter laughing in the other room, the way my wife hummed while she cooked. I was too busy getting things done. But now I stop for everything. I watch the squirrels bicker on the fence. I taste my tea instead of gulping it. I feel the wind on my face and think, wow, I'm still here. And I'm telling you, those little wonders, those small pauses, they bring more joy than any big achievement ever did. The truth is, You don't need to travel the world or climb mountains to feel alive. You just need to notice what's already around you. I have a maple tree outside my kitchen window. I've watched it change for over 30 years. Every fall, it turns this fiery orange, like it's celebrating something. And every time I see it, I smile like it's the first time. That joy? It's renewable. It doesn't run out. But you have to slow down enough to let it in. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's nice, but I have pain. I have worries. I can't just sit around looking at trees. I get it. I really do. I've had a pacemaker for 12 years. My knees aren't what they used to be. I've buried friends. I've cried in waiting rooms. But I've learned this. The pain doesn't cancel out the beauty. They exist side by side. And the more you make room for beauty, even tiny moments of it, the lighter your pain feels. I remember this one morning, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I was sitting on the porch watching the fog lift off the grass when a little girl rode by on a pink bicycle. She must have been about 7. She waved at me like she'd known me her whole life. Just this wide, fearless smile. I waved back. And I swear to you, I felt 20 years younger. Not because she said anything profound. She didn't say a word. But because for that moment, I felt connected to something bigger than myself, a future, a continuation of life. That moment carried me through the whole week. So here's my suggestion for you. Become a collector of small wonders. Keep a little notebook if you want. Write down one thing a day that made you smile, or made you think, or made you feel something warm inside. It might be the taste of cinnamon on your toast, the feel of fresh sheets, the way your pet looks at you like you're the most important person in the world. These moments are your treasures. And the more you notice them, the more they show up. Another thing I've learned? Laughter is medicine, and it's free. I make a point to laugh every day. Sometimes it's at myself, like when I forget why I walked into a room. Sometimes it's from a silly old TV show or a joke from my grandson. But laughter, it resets you. It lifts the fog. I once read that children laugh over 300 times a day. Adults, maybe 15. That's a tragedy. We need to bring laughter back into our daily routine, not just when something's funny, but as a way of staying human, staying light, staying connected to joy. One more thing I want to touch on, and this is for anyone who's ever said, "I'm too old to change." Please stop telling yourself that. You are never too old to grow. I started painting at 84, just simple stuff. Landscapes, flowers, old barns. I wasn't great. Still not. But oh, the joy of trying something new. I'd dip my brush into those colors and feel like a kid again. That feeling of discovery, that's what youth is. Not your age, not your body, your spirit. And your spirit doesn't retire unless you tell it to. So, if there's something you've always wanted to do, write a poem, play a piano, learn Italian, bake bread, do it, or at least start. Don't do it to impress anyone. Do it because your soul is hungry for aliveness, and feeding your soul, that's how you stretch time. That's how you live fully, not just long. Not just long. Look, I'm 92. I've got wrinkles where I didn't know skin could wrinkle. My hands shake sometimes when I tie my shoes. I've outlived people I never thought I'd have to say goodbye to. But I'm still here, still driving, still curious, still amazed by a good cup of coffee. And if that's not proof that these little habits matter, I don't know what is. So let me ask you something. When's the last time you laughed? I mean really laughed. Belly shaking, eye-watering laughter? When's the last time you called a friend just to say, "I'm thinking of you"? When did you last sit in stillness and let the moment wrap around you like a blanket? If you can't remember, don't worry. Today's a perfect day to begin. You know, when I look back on the decades behind me, it's not the awards or the job titles that stick in my mind. It's not the car I drove or the house I owned. It's the late-night talks, the way my wife used to squeeze my hand when she laughed, the feel of my dog's fur under my palm after a long walk. It's the human stuff, the soft, small, unforgettable moments that told me, hey, you're alive, and it matters. And maybe that's the most important habit I've kept all these years, staying present, fully, intentionally present. Not drifting through the day on autopilot, not numbing out with the news or worrying about 10 things I can't control. I mean really being here, in the conversation, in the kitchen, in the car, even in the silence. Especially in the silence. I'll tell you something that might surprise you. When you hit your 90s, silence becomes a kind of companion. At first it's eerie. Rooms that were once full of noise grow still. But eventually, that silence turns into space. Room to reflect, room to remember. And if you treat it gently, that silence begins to whisper wisdom. I've heard some of my deepest truths in the hush between the ticking clock and the rustle of a breeze outside my window. But even now, with all that quiet, I stay in motion. And that's habit number 5. Keep moving, even if it's just a little. Not just your body, your heart, your thoughts, your connections. I'm not talking about running marathons. I'm talking about taking a walk around the block with your neighbor, stretching your legs while you listen to your favorite old song, getting out of bed in the morning and saying, "Let's see what today brings." You see, motion is life. The worst thing I ever did years ago was sit too long in a chair and let the hours pass me by. My body stiffened. My mood darkened. Everything felt slower. But the minute I started moving again, even just a slow walk to the mailbox and back, I felt my energy return. And more than that, I felt like I was participating in the day again, not just watching it slip past. That's why I still drive. Not just because it's convenient, but because it gives me independence, freedom. The ability to say, I want to see the lake today, and actually go do it. I don't take that for granted. Every time I grip the steering wheel, I say a quiet thank you, not to anyone in particular, just to life itself, for still letting me be part of the ride. And that's really what this video is about, isn't it? Staying in the driver's seat of your own life at 60, 70, 80, or 92. Staying engaged, curious, kind, flexible. Those are the habits that matter most. Not the fancy diets or the endless supplements, not the step counters or the miracle creams. Just 5 simple things that shape how you experience the world around you. Let's recap them. Not like a checklist, but like old friends. You nourish your body with the basics. Clean water, balanced food, fresh air. You build and nurture relationships that lift you up. You seek small wonders and let them fill you with joy. You stay present, even in the quiet, especially in the quiet. And you keep moving, physically, emotionally, spiritually. These habits don't require youth. They don't require money. All they require is willingness to be awake, to be open, and to show up for your own life. And believe me, when you do that consistently, something magical happens. You don't just add years to your life, you add life to your years. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you, not just for listening, but for caring about your health and your future. Whether you're 62 or 82, you're not too late to start. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And if you take even one of these habits to heart, I promise you, your days will begin to feel richer, warmer, more meaningful. Let me leave you with this. Longevity isn't just about how long you live, it's about how deeply you live. I've lived long enough to know that every sunrise is a second chance. And every smile you give, every person you help, every laugh you share, that's what gives those extra years their worth. So, take a breath, drink your water, call someone you love. Step outside and notice something beautiful. And when you do, know that you're building the kind of life that doesn't just last. It matters. And hey, if this message touched you, inspired you, or just made you smile, why not share it with someone who could use a little encouragement too? Maybe a friend who's feeling stuck, or a parent who needs reminding that they're not invisible. Pass it on, because good habits, just like kindness, are meant to be shared. Take care of yourself. You've got a lot more good days ahead.